In this video, we are meeting with Josh, a long-term NFT investor, to get his pulse on the current state of the NFT market in relation to what's going on in the world right now. As usual, nothing in this video is financial advice. We're not financial advisors. The NFT space is incredibly risky, so always do your own research. And if you enjoy the daily NFT podcasts and content, make sure that you hit the like button on the video and subscribe to the channel. Josh, I've been looking forward to doing another one of these with you. I felt like we almost ran out of time last time. And there's some juicy stuff going on in the NFT market right now. So first of all, how you doing? And second of all, what do you want to talk about?
Well, first of all, just to clear the record, I am not Beanie. We might talk a little bit alike, but not Beanie. I've had, since Beanie's been on the spaces, which I think is actually currently going on at the same time we're here. But I've literally had probably 20 people be like, "Are you Beanie?" No, I'm not Beanie. Beanie's much richer than me. Pre-recorded.
Someone just said it's pre-recorded. All right, look, real quick. So wait, is Beanie still talking? Someone should confirm, but I made sure that I saw Josh not speaking and heard Beanie's voice before the show. So everyone should know Josh is not Beanie. And yes, Josh has better hair than Beanie.
Oh, thank you. A lot of nice things being said. So yeah, what am I seeing in the market? I think, whenever I'm on the show, I know I get some shit because I talk about the same stuff all the time. But the reality is, I think there only might be 20 projects that are around today that are going to have any reasonable ROI in like 5 years. And so what's going on is innovation, right? Like the big thing was Look Labs, which has Beanie. We were talking about today on the show. I put a little bet into that. And then, it's been doing relatively well, but I think that project is innovative. I think the caliber of work going into it is really good. I would love it if you could pull up the artwork. We're getting a pullback. No. Like the artwork behind Endgame,
Yep.
which is tied to Look Labs. If you could pull up the picture of Farouk,
The character.
Just the quality of the imagery of it. I mean, the graphic designer, I don't know who that is. This is probably some of the better artwork in the NFT space when it comes to photorealism. So when I speak about artwork, I don't think that there's good or bad artwork, but if you're going to say something is designed to be photorealistic, if you look at like tattoo challenges or like the best tattoo world's like, that's a great fucking picture. I mean, Someone was wildly talented. They made a picture of Farouk where he looks fantastic. I mean, having fire as your superpower as a villain is pretty fucking badass, if you ask me. What would your superpower be if you were a villain, Pio?
It would be buying the top.
That's a good villain power. Good villain power.
I think the villain always buys the top. At the end of the movie, at the beginning, he buys the bottom.
Nice.
So I mean, I agree with you. So like, if for people that don't know, Beanie is a controversial figure in the NFT space. However, the results kind of speak for themselves. Beanie was an early contributor, creator of Pixel Vault, and Pixel Vault is one of the biggest brands, like a top 3 brand in the NFT space, and really has like done excellent projects. I mean, their ecosystem is really robust and built out, and Beanie was involved early on. Besides that, Beanie is behind Wolf Game, which captured the attention of the entire NFT space, including Gary Vee and the kind of Gary Vee followers. And then now we're looking at Look Labs, which it was largely speculated was like completely architected by Beanie. It seems like he definitely had a big hand in it. So this, I feel like, is starting to look like the most obvious play in the entire NFT space over the past month. It was, I think, the first thing that I bought in the 1ETH challenge wallet, and it's just sitting there still. It's almost a 3x from what I paid for it. I also have it in my personal wallet, and it's had its ups and downs, but it's seen, I think, its all-time high today. And you made a bet on it this week, right? I guess my question is like, what took you so long?
it's just hard to keep an eye on everything in this space. And what I look for is a high quality project. And then I look to make sure that there's an appropriate amount of momentum to coincide with it. When you think about it, you are going to be deploying your capital at different times and looking at a little bit more of a momentum style trade. You want to make sure, I would rather not buy the pure bottom. I'd rather buy double the bottom, but still have room for a 10x run, because I think that there's a better Sharpe ratio when you start to see the momentum building. To me,
Yep.
it's an easier play. I also don't make as many bets as you make. I make fewer bets. I make bigger bets. And maybe you make bigger bets than I do, but like
I
for
don't.
me, it, for me and my portfolio size, I tend to make larger bets and fewer bets than your average trader. And that's, when I think about things, that's what I'm looking at. And so when I came into this, I was originally watching the project right when the FUD about Beanie came out.
Yep.
Then I kind of lost track of it. And then after that, when everyone mentioned it, I looked at it, I went into the details on it. And what I like about the project is the attention to detail, right? So that has a QR code that goes to like hello world. If you look at the other pass, it has like a demon on the back of it. So I've got a hypothesis that the OG pass is going to end up being a pass that will mint you one of the villains, which it looks like there's a villain on the back of it. So for me, like I probably spent about 3 hours going through the white paper, which is the green paper in their perspective. I took like a deeper look into the artwork, where contrast this artwork with any other NFT project. And I would argue that probably 99th percentile, rotating image, high quality, pixel, I mean, it looks like 3D real photorealism again. They're on brand. They have thoughtful color palettes that coincide, and it's like small attention to detail. So if you can actually, you see the purple on the top, if you can hit pause when it rotates back around.
Sure. Like
No,
that.
no, the other side, other side. So
Oh,
just
yeah.
just going with it, you can tell somebody designed this with a high level of attention to detail. You have a color palette which is purple, gray, blue, and that's transitioned throughout the entire product. So you have the top and the bottom of the purple, and then you have accent pieces. You can tell someone put effort in this, and to me, effort and talent are like 80% of what I look for, because if you have a talented team and you have a high level of effort and people are really sweating the details, I tend to think over a longer time period, things will ebb and flow, but you're going to end up with a better product. It's the same reason I put a big bet on VFriends, is the fact that Vaynerchuk sweats the details. I mentioned it on stage once, but when his product was delayed for a week, I sent a post out on Twitter. I had like no followers at the time. I was like, hey man, I respect the long game. I get a DM from Vaynerchuk being like, this really means a lot to me. So just people that are going to put in the extra work, people that are going to do the extra details. That's what I'm looking for in projects. And whether it's like World of Women and you look at Yam, who's really doing a high end offering, and they're putting out like a new airdrop every month or every couple of months. I think that these are the type of people that are constantly iterating, they're leading the innovation, and they're working harder and smarter. A lot of people are like, I work hard or I work smart. You should be working both.
Yeah, exactly. And people are talking smack about the art on the OG pass, the Looks Labs passes. I think you're missing the point. He's talking about the attention to detail, painting the inside of the fence, the inside of the cabinets. And I mean, look, Easy and Wappy bought this under 0.2. I bought it under 0.25. I think it's a good one. Like, so people are saying like, what Beanie project worked a month after? I mean, Pixel Vault had a real run, like right, Punk's comic and all that. And when I found out it was Beanie affiliated, I was like, I'm buying this. Like, I'm absolutely buying this. And in my opinion, you're still early on it because the staking, that whole thing hasn't started yet. So I'm really excited to see it. You're going to have to do a lot of stuff, Josh. If you bought 50 grand worth of this stuff, you're going to have to claim a lot of buds and mint a lot of stuff. Like there's going to be a lot of stuff for you to do to take full advantage of this. Or are you just going to hold the passes?
I mean, I'll probably have one or two of the passes that I just hold. I think that there's some game theory that would stipulate having an unrendered pass may
Mm,
eventually hold more value.
mm.
So, I've got 20 passes. And so if I hold two, that's 10% of my portfolio that I allocate to more of a risk on variant that is not going to yield dividend. And then the remaining 90%, I think I want to be reactive to hire Bert to manage Josh's stuff. I think I want to be
We're
reactive to
trending in that direction. Bert's going to be managing portfolios soon.
who's Bert?
Bert and his Jay in our Discord.
Mm, mm.
I'd say one of the top traders in the Discord. Shout out to Bert. He's been on the show before.
Yeah. No, so late notice been hitting me up with a lot of hate on here. Is he the one that says I look terrible?
We're gonna do our thing. We're not gonna worry about the commenters. So,
All right, all right, all right.
but yeah, no, I'm really interested to see what happens with Look Labs. You have a big bag. I've got a few. It should be fun. What do you think of the market right now as a whole? When you and I spoke last time, I think it was right as some of the global stuff was heating up, some of the Russia-Ukraine stuff and the US's response. And since then, we've seen this kind of little run, and people don't really, it's hard to tell if it's a dead cat bounce. It's hard to tell what the story is with it. What do you think about what's going on right now? Do you anticipate turbulence? Like, what are your thoughts?
I think you're going to start to see a divergence happening where you're going to see projects that are good start to pull away.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the dog shit projects are just going to turn to trash. Like, I fucking hate PFPs at the moment. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's almost a 0% chance I would mint a PFP of any kind whatsoever. Like,
Yeah.
exception would be if something was hot and someone put me on the whitelist. But with that being said, like, the market's just oversaturated in that direction. I'm looking for gaming. I'm looking for utility. I'm looking for something that's new or different. If I'm investing in a PFP and I had to buy a PFP today, it's World of Women. I mean, that would be like hands down my go-to
Yeah.
if I was going to pick up a PFP. I also like women and weapons, but full disclosure, I've got a very big bag of them. I'm friends with the founders of that project and interacting, Sarah and Jake are the two co-founders, husband and wife team. Sarah's the main face of the business, and they're really smart. They're really hardworking. I've spoken with them behind the scenes on multiple occasions, and I just really like who they are, and I think that they'll iterate and move through problems pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, on the PFP front, I'm really looking for things that stand out. So there's a couple of stories in the PFP world that I think are interesting. There's a project that I own called Loser Club, and I've been very
Theo, if you recommend that fucking project to me one more time. Yeah, I get your opinion of me as I belong in the fucking loser club, but no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, we saw a run up to 0.3 and then it pulled back to 0.2. And now we're seeing it start to creep up in the mid twos again. I think that this is probably the best PFP project, in my opinion, that has come out in the past few months. There were a couple other really hyped up ones. One of them has had a little bit of a bumpy ride here. That one is called Star Catchers. And there was just a few examples of hyped up projects. Another one here, which hasn't had a bumpy ride, but you're seeing the floor pull back to 0.43, is Wonder Pals. And so there's a lot of these projects that get a lot of hype beforehand. They mint, they're 1 ETH right out of the gate or close to 1 ETH right out of the gate, and then they slowly creep back down. So it is an interesting time, and it's a time for utility. You look at Look Labs 420 game. That's kind of a Wolf game clone. It's with Beanie. You look at what the Gutter Cat gang just did. They were able to sell a bunch of new NFTs, basically copying Bored Ape Yacht Club, but I think they've got enough credibility in the space. And I was talking on our Twitter space about how when I saw their LinkedIn and I saw that they're running themselves like a real organization, a real startup, and they definitely have a lot of money, that gave me a lot of confidence in them as well. I'm looking for stuff that's more like that. And then there's one other project called Loveless City that is appreciating right now. And that one is another example of a non-PFP utility-based NFT that's being backed by like crypto OGs, and now it's performing really well. So
Which one is that you're speaking of?
that's Loveless City. So I minted this. We did a whitelist giveaway in our Discord with this. And Von Doom is involved with this project. I actually think he might be like kind of heading it up. Don't quote me on that. I know he's involved. He's on the site and everything like that. And he's like a OG sort of NFT crypto person. But you're seeing this, you know, the mint price was 0.11. It immediately went to 0.3. It pulled back as low as maybe a quarter ETH, and it's been as high as like 0.75. So there are projects that are not PFP related that are doing pretty well, but I'm looking for the really good stuff now. I'm looking for the real, like, actual utility, VFriends level utility, although that's going to be hard to come by.
Do you want to really like a hot tip? Is that what you're looking for?
What's your hot tip?
I think the most slept on kind of blue chip aspect of a project right now could possibly be VFriends mini drops. Go ahead and pull those up.
Sure.
They're in the VFriends universe. They are one of 555 on here. There's been a lot of hints by the VFriends team that these are going to be high value. Yeah, I am in the Liquid Death NFT. Yeah, I am. To answer that question.
What's that?
This is Liquid Death. It's like really good marketing and branding. Can you guess what this is? What kind of drink this is?
So it's not. I think the easy guess is an energy drink. I'm going to assume that that's incorrect.
Yep.
If it's Liquid Death, is it maybe it's not coffee? Is it like a fitness drink?
It's a competitor to Perrier. It's water.
Wow.
It's incredible branding. So a friend of mine, Laz, he's one of the investors in the project. He got me hooked on it. He was like, just fucking buy it and try it out. I was like, I don't like energy drinks. He's like, it's literally sparkling water. So that's what I'm drinking. Got the Liquid Death.
Canned water. All right.
But so back to the VFriends. I think I've heard them hint that there may be future utility on these. I've been picking up a few of them over the past couple of days. As far as getting into the VFriends universe, they're a pretty affordable entry point. It doesn't have utility today. It won't get you a VCon ticket, but that's the gift goat. These were given with the gift goat. These were originally selling when I first got one of my gifts, I sold it for like 12 or 13,000, but now you can buy one for like $4,000. So I've just been picking up more and more of them as time goes by.
You sold one of these for 13 or 14K?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's interesting. I bought my gift goat for about 12,000. The first gift I sold for basically the full price I paid for the gift goat. The gift goat is now probably worth 130,000, maybe 150,000. And that one thing covered my position. I sold that and then I bought back in for like 2 or 3 of them.
Very well played. I mean, this one's interesting to me because of the Danny Cole, Creature World artwork being involved. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the VFriends ecosystem. Our audience sometimes gets mad at me when I talk about book games, but I got to pick your brain on it because you're a bit of a subject matter expert with some of this stuff. I have the option, or I don't know if I still do. It might already be sold out because of how quick Gary's stuff can move, but I can burn 5 wood frame book games NFTs right now for a VCon ticket. I think I'm going to be able to go to VCon either way, so I don't necessarily need the ticket. And if I sold the 5 books, I think that'd be about the 5 book game NFTs, that'd be about 2 ETH. Do you think that it's a better move to burn them for the ticket and then sell the ticket?
I mean, fuck, if these things are going for 2 Ethereum, that feels high to me. I mean,
2 Ethereum for 5 of them.
2 Ethereum for 5 book.
Like
no, I understand what I'm saying. But if the passes for VCon are selling for 2 Ethereum, that's 5 Gs for like a standard pass. I mean, that would be one of the most valuable concerts that you could imagine. I mean, that would be hugely valuable. I tend to think that they're going to sell for like 3,500, but then again, you just saw these playing cards they dropped sell for like $2,150. I mean, they could go for more. I think if I'm you, I just hold your book games tokens. I mean, that's what I'm doing. I'm not burning any.
Yeah, and April 5th is the snapshot, and today's March 11th, so I have to think things are gonna really heat up towards April 5th when it comes to the book games. Okay, well, no, I appreciate your insight, Josh. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I kind of feel like the books themselves or the tokens themselves are gonna be more valuable, but I guess we're gonna have to see. Um, I guess, what do you think about NFTs for this year? I know you've talked about gaming. You're interested in Solana gaming.
Mhm.
Do you think that we see like a heinous bear market? Do you think we see a downtrend? Like, what would be your market predictions for the year?
I
Mhm.
think it's a bad idea in general to try to time the market.
Yeah.
That's just a fool's errand because there are going to be some world events that occur that will trigger either massive upside or massive downside. So I think trying to time the market, not a good idea. So let's speak in general trends. I think this will be a year that people burn out on PFPs. I think people are going to wake up with a lot of projects that they paid, 1, 3, 5 Ethereum for, and they're going to be worth nothing.
Yeah.
That's going to be one thing I think is going to happen. I think you are going to start to see a semblance of right now, it's 99% art, 1% utility in these projects. Like Bored Apes, the utility, you get a sweatshirt, or you could go to like a party in Brooklyn or something like that. I mean, and let's assume that Bored Apes cost $250,000, and we say like your sweatshirt's worth $1,000. We'll give it like the best benefit of the doubt. We'll say your Brooklyn party that's held is worth 10 grand. It's like a super duper party. Okay, so now you're at 11 grand in utility, and you still have $239,000 of art value to the project or network effect or to be a member of the club. I think you're going to go from this 99% art, 1% utility to you're going to start to see the scale push, and real utility is going to start to get built out. So there's also a counterintuitive point that people need to realize that if you have circular logic, it's not really utility. And what I mean by that is I don't think it's utility if I create a PFP or I create an NFT with no value. And then I say to you, this is going to have great utility, Pio. I'm going to add another NFT that I'll drop in your wallet that will also have zero value. And then I'll give you a fourth one, third, fourth, fifth.
Yeah. No
That's
value.
not utility. That's just printing more. That's just creating an inflationary environment. And so you should, for most people that are looking at this stuff, I think it's really helpful to do some basic economic foundational work to understand macro and microeconomics. I think that if you spent 10 hours a week for 5 weeks on that as a learning endeavor, you'd probably be ahead of 90% of the investors in this space.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. So do you think that there's a chance that Ethereum has a big pump this year and that really kind of devastates the NFT market during that time period?
I'm seeing the quality projects really being priced in USD, right? Um, at the end of the day, the USD value of like gift goats has remained pretty constant. The USD value of Bored Ape Yacht Club remained pretty constant. USD value of CryptoPunks remained fairly constant, right? You're gonna see massive changes in value to the like shit projects, right? And when they don't have much value beyond network effect and they're early stage and they don't have well-known teams and there's not really a market sense, they're going to move at a bigger level with the price of Ethereum up or down.
Yeah, and someone just said people will pull out of NFTs once gas and common groceries go up due to inflation. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad take, right? You're suggesting that the quantitative easing is going to lead to more inflation, which obviously we're already seeing. The cost of gas is through the roof, especially in states like California. And digital, JPEGs and stuff, right? NFTs, digital assets don't have real value. My kind of response to that is, well, the US has dug this hole where they have to print money. And we learned that asset based saving is the only way to preserve wealth. And we saw the K shaped recovery in 2020 as the money printing went kind of through the roof, money printer go burr. That's when assets, including NFTs, because the value of money is so low because it's just being printed, the supply is just increasing at this insane rate. That makes all assets go up, including NFTs. Josh, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, you look at macroeconomics, right? You're going to say, as the value of the US dollar goes down, what happens? And you've three things that could happen, right? Could make the value of NFTs go up, could make them go down, they could stay the same. These are the three optionalities we have. If people panic, NFTs are fairly illiquid and they'll rocket downward.
Yep.
If people view this as an effective store of value, then not so much. My gut feeling, you're going to see 3% of the projects take 90% of the profit, right? When shit hits the fan, you'll see these 3%, or maybe it's 1%, or maybe it's 5%. These high-end projects that have really dedicated teams are going to survive better. They'll still take a 60% hit or a 50% hit, don't get me wrong. But once they do that, I think those projects are going to be like rocket ships into the future. So everyone underestimates the value of founders. Take a look at some of the biggest companies in the world. We'll say Tesla went very, very close to going bankrupt. The reason it didn't go bankrupt, Elon Musk, like single-handedly was like sleeping on the floor of that shop. That's like the kind of dedication you're going to need. Apple almost went bankrupt. Steve Jobs stepped back in and saved it single-handedly. You can look at Amazon, really kind of created by Jeff Bezos at the end of the day. When you look at these big companies and their success arcs, it's typically due to the vision of a single person that is unrelenting. And that's why I don't have an issue with centralized projects like VeeFriends. And I actually would make an argument that owning the intellectual property is a bit of counterintuitive, right? So people are saying like, okay, I own a Bored Ape, and so if there's a TV show, I'll get my Bored Ape featured. All right, I'll bite.
I know you hate this. You hate the idea of making a TV show, making a video game, because you're like, it's so hard to do that. How likely is it any of these projects are going to do that?
Well, let's say you make a wildly successful video game, or let's say you make a wildly successful TV show. The largest casts on TV shows might be 200 main characters and maybe 1,000 secondary characters. That means if you have 200 main characters, 2% of the Bored Apes get paid, 98% do not. If you have 1,000, you still have 9 out of 10 people not getting paid. It's just counterintuitive. And the ability of an audience member to differentiate between Bored Ape 1 and Bored Ape 2, when they are so similar, becomes really, really challenging. Like, yes, if you have a gold ape and you have a traditional ape and you have a crazy-eyed ape, those three are very easy to contrast. But trying to keep track of, the difference of 20 different apes that are all very similar becomes really challenging over time.
Yeah, no, I think you have a point. I think people are overestimating some of the applications that these things will have. But, on the flip side, like when I look at the mutant apes, I think that if somebody wanted to make a slasher film or a comic book that's in that kind of horror direction, there's just a ton of options with that. And I think that once it just takes a long time to onboard what I'll call legacy creatives to the NFT space. A lot of people that I follow on Twitter from my days in the music industry, I see them make posts about NFTs. They say things like, you can just basically tell that they don't have an understanding of why NFTs have value, probably because they don't have a deep understanding of blockchain technology. They also say that the people that they know that have gotten into NFTs are scammy people. So I feel like NFTs still have a really long way to go in terms of education of people from legacy industries across the board, including creative industries, even though they would benefit from participating in the NFT space in just such a big way. it would just be so much better than operating in their legacy industries. The doors would open for them in so many directions. Um, you know, Josh, could you talk to us about how you go about evaluating a project and going from I don't know what a project is to I'm making a decent sized bet, which I know a decent sized bet for you is bigger than a decent sized bet for most people.
Well, let's be honest, it's smaller than a lot of the professional investors out
Of
there, right?
course,
I'm
of
I'm
course.
and that's something I do want to be really clear on. Like, I'm not a big fish.
Yeah.
I know that we kind of joke around about it, but I'm really not. The reality is, I'm a retail investor. When you look at institutional investors, these people are trading billions. Those are real players. I am, a retail investor who's worked very hard to build up a small portfolio. But at the end of the day, I am still a small trader at the end of the day. And yes, I respect that everyone is in a different spot, but I guarantee you, compare me to like OXB1. I mean, that guy's got a
You have more
bag
money
of
than him.
capital. I mean, he's a real investor.
Yeah.
He's institutional. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of my thoughts on that. But what do I look for? Team. That the team is like the most necessary but not sufficient part of the equation. And then beyond that, it's looking at the direction of the market and are they on the right side of momentum? Oh, love women weapons.
Well, you brought up the team, and I know that you're big on this team. But yeah, I mean, and did you find out about this one because Gary V talked about it, or were you already in?
No, no, I actually found out about that through Gary V. Ended up getting in touch with Sarah, really liked her. Full disclosure, they're actually our institutional beta partner for my project that I'm going to be doing as well. Creating another company in the near future, and we're working together with them, and very excited about them.
Nice. Well, I think a lot of people try to figure out what projects are good versus what projects are not worth buying. And so I'll just pull up cuz a lot of people that consume this content I think are still trying to figure out the best way to navigate the space. And I'll use gutter juice as an example.
I'm going to say one thing really quick.
Sure.
For the first 20 minutes, I thought you and the people on stage were saying gutter Jews. And I was like, man, that's a little anti-Semitic, but now I know it's gutter juice and not gutter Jews. That's a nicer project.
Yeah, I was going to say big difference, and I'd be pretty concerned if our audience was just smashing you with anti-Semitic remarks. So I'm relieved that you figured that out and that you feel I hope more comfortable on the show now. So I'll use Gutter Juice as an example because it's the Gutter Cats ecosystem, right? The Gutter Cats founders or whoever was kind of running the pricing for this, Micah G kind of laid this out, and I think that he's totally right about it. They made a mistake. They did a Dutch auction from 0.9 ETH down to 0.1 ETH. So that's a descending auction that starts high and finishes low. And this hit the floor of that auction, meaning that you could just come in and you could mint at 0.1. So that's the floor of the auction, right? And that's probably a result of the Pixelmon situation, followed by the outrage from the Friends with You situation, where there were high mint prices in Dutch auction format. The projects that I just mentioned were really high, like 4 ETH, 3 ETH, literally. 0.9 is not that much, and if you did it 4 months ago, they probably would have successfully done, they would have had way more sales at like 0.6, 0.5, 0.4, right? But this hit the floor of the Dutch auction because of improper pricing by the founders. So you're looking at no gas war, like a really well-optimized contract. I think the gas I paid, it might have been under 0.01. I should really look it up and figure it out. So you're talking about paying 0.1 for the NFT and then a negligible gas price. And it's Gutter Cat, Gutter Gang ecosystem, which came out shortly after Bored Apes and, really has like a top 10 place as a PFP. I think a lot of people would agree with that. I would challenge you to name 10 PFP projects in the space that are better than this one. And it had a lottery factor where you either got a gutter cat serum, a gutter dog serum, pigeon serum, or rat serum. and the cat and dog serums are more valuable than the other ones. So for your 0.1 ETH bet on an optimized contract without a gas war, you were able to maybe draw a cat serum or a dog serum that traded for 2 to 3x, I think for the cat 4x within hours, like same night, right? And it's a known entity. You can go on LinkedIn and you can look up who works at Gutter Labs. And they've been around since May of last year. And the floors of all of their projects have appreciated, and they have a ton of money. There's 2,200 ETH of volume traded on this. That's a lot of money. Multiply 2,200 by whatever ETH costs right now, 2,500 bucks, I don't know, 2,600 bucks, and multiply that by 5%. And that's how much they made off of just the secondary sales of this, not counting the primary sales in that Dutch auction, and not counting the primary and secondary sales of all the previous auctions. So you're betting on an entity in the space that has resources, that has proven that they're not going anywhere, that has a built-out community, and it's at the 0.1 price point. So I just want to use it as an example of a no-brainer project. I only bought 2 of them. I guess I'm a bozo too, but I'm being conservative because of that macroeconomic conditions, potential war, things going on in the world, all the smart money people in the NFT space talking about a downtrend or a bear market. But I just wanted to lay out the sort of thought process on a project like this and why this is an obvious play long before random degen bullshit that everyone in our Discord apes into and sells within a half hour. Rather than go into that, I would go to something like this.
Well, let's walk through your hypothesis. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say you've got 2,200 Ethereum in sales, 20, so
there's a high supply on this for sure. There's a high
right.
supply.
So no. I'm just talking about the sales, 2,200 ETH. So reverse engineering, you multiply that times 2,500 and then multiply that times, what would it be? 500 basis points. So you end up with $275,000 from their secondary sales, plus whatever they minted at. So let's call it, let's give them a benefit of the doubt. Let's call it 5 million.
Yeah.
Right. So you raised a seed round of funding for an early stage company. You're in that range. So you have access to enough capital to give your organization, which should be 2 years of runway, assuming your founders don't kind of abscond with the money. This assumes that founders are making $250,000 a year. 2 founders, that's $500,000, plus you build out a team, plus other expenses, plus you pay taxes. So 2 years of runway on it, assuming everything goes almost perfectly with that. So, okay, you've got that's the thing. You're saying that the 5 million is a value that you're looking at. What else makes you bullish about this project besides the $5 million?
Well, I was pointing out that it was an affordable entry into a built-out ecosystem. Basically, that the risk level of participating in this drop at the floor of the Dutch auction at 0.1 is such a different risk profile than buying random other stuff. Like, I try to frame what it's like for somebody first entering the NFT space. That's like, I think about that a lot. I think some of the people that get exposed to our YouTube content are either there or they're a little bit after that, right? And if you just buy our NFT, for example, and go into the Discord and you see every project that gets laid out, you might not understand the experience level of the traders that are surfacing those projects, and you might not know how to maneuver it. You might not know if you're getting in at a good price or not, and if you should sell or if you shouldn't, and if it's even worth buying at all, because nobody bats 1,000. And so this one, right? Gutter Gang ecosystem, 0.1 ETH, no gas war, optimized gas, lottery function, meaning that you might, I don't know what the percentage was, but there's only 4 things. It can be a cat, a dog, a pigeon, or a rat. And if you got the cat or the dog, it was like a pretty big win. It objectively is, especially for someone that doesn't have deep pockets, because a lot of people have 0.1 plus gas to throw around. I don't know how much that is. What is that? $300. Let's say it was $300 to buy one of these at mint. And right now the floor is 0.16. So no matter what, you're in the green here like 2 days after the fact, 3 days after the fact, but there's a good chance you could have like 3x'd, right? And then all of a sudden you have a half ETH bag or maybe a 0.4, 0.35 ETH bag, and you can do way more damage with that than 0.1. So a lot of people get turned off by gas prices. A lot of people get turned off by US dollar price tags on the Ethereum, in the Ethereum NFT ecosystem. And I think that if they just kind of got familiar, like, you know, I remember when this dropped, like I was there when this was minting. They did a stealth mint. It was 0.1 each. There were only 3,000 of them. I'm talking about gutter cats. This was a year ago in May. So for me, it's programmed in. Gutter gang is good. But someone that's new to the space doesn't understand the significance of, you know, gutter juice in the gutter gang ecosystem the way that I do. So I'm trying to lay out, you know, blueprints for how people can figure it out. And really, I think it's time researching and time getting exposed to NFT projects. But all those factors I named are how I kind of got to the fact that like this was an obvious play to mint at 0.1.
Yeah, I think if you minted it, so for your audience, people need to be thinking about bet size, right?
Yeah.
And that looks different for every person, right? For me, when I look at something like this, you're going to tell me that I could have minted at 0.1 and now it's at 0.15. What's the daily transactional volume on this?
Let's take a peek. So we had, yeah, like for example, on the 9th, I think you can see this 2 days ago, the volume was 640 ETH. On the 10th, it was 216 ETH. So volume's down. It was 1358 ETH on the 8th.
Okay. So you have to realize this would be a reasonable play for somebody who's looking to buy 2, 3, 5. If someone came in and bought 100, I don't think you're going to be able to exit that position really easily without moving the floor. And that's something that people should be thinking about. So if you have a smaller amount of capital, you need to be more protective of it. And if you have an ultra high level of conviction in this play, go for it. But the reality is, no one bats 1,000. So if you're looking at the NFT space, in my opinion, you should be okay with striking out 7 out of 10 times, but you want to hit a 10, 20, 100x on the 30% you don't.
Yeah.
I think of it like venture. That's why I tend to invest a little bit longer, because here's the thing, man. Like, yes, this was a great bet. Like, you did a lot of research. You deserve all the accolades on that. But the reality is, you know, for people to get a 50% gain minus whatever they paid for taxes, in the long run, if you did that 10 times and you strike out 7 out of 10, you're going to end up net down. I tend to think you want in this space to be looking for the projects that can do 10, 20, 50x, unless you're going with the higher value projects that have a greater level of establishment. The challenge I find with some of these projects, like the one that you're talking about, that have these really low caps on them, is the outcome of them will typically be determined by a small group of people. You'll get a little alpha group with a bunch of guys that have 10, $50 million in their bag, and they'll send each other a message and they'll say, hey, let's buy this up over the next day and a half and put 300 grand into it and then dump bags on people. And I'm not saying this project, but just any low cap project, you don't need a lot of capital to move it around a lot. So you have to be careful of those things. And you have to realize, like, you did enough research to understand this. Now, I'll ask you the question: what would be your optimal hold time for this?
Well, I think if you can, you should hold it long term because, again,
What does that mean for you?
For me, I just like long term. I've been holding. So I've been in the NFT space since February 22nd, 2021. So my 1 year anniversary was 2/22/22, and I bought an NFT that week that I still have.
Okay, so like in your investment thesis, you're saying like when you purchase these, your goal is to hold them for a year plus.
If you're in the financial position and if you want to do that venture capital style strategy that you're talking about, I think you have to be ready to hold them for like the long term, like like a year plus. You have to keep in mind when the Nifty Gateway bubble burst, and people make fun of me because I talk about this all the time. The things that were trading at like 5,000 USD went down to like $800 USD, and you just had to hold them, and then they came back. Like X Copy, for example, was available at like $1,000, $1,100, the open editions that were released on Nifty Gateway, and those trade at like 30 grand now, right? So I think with something like this, Gutter Juice, where you're betting on Gutter Labs as an entity, you got to go long term with it. A lot of people are looking to trade. A lot of people aren't looking to invest. They're looking to take one amount of money, buy something, and then within a certain amount of time, sell it for more money. That's like the ideal situation. If you're not doing that, then what are you doing? That's like the mentality of a lot of people in the space. I think with Gutter Juice, you brought up buying 100. If you bought 100, you would have gotten a lot of dogs and a lot of cats just by, probability. At least I have to think 25% of your 100 would be either a dog or a cat. And that's like a 3-4x. You could probably sell all the dogs and cats to cover the entire remainder of the investment, like, and be sitting on like 60 of these potentially for free. I mean, you can check my math on that. And I understand what you're talking about, moving the floor, but selling 20 or 25 gutter dogs and cats isn't the same thing as selling 100 total NFTs,
Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from.
So we can move on from this. I wanted to pick your brain on something. So this is going to maybe feel a little self-indulgent, but I think that you're giving great perspective. I'd love to know what attracted you to buying our NFT and prompted you to make the bet that you did. Like, and what are your thoughts on NFTs like ours?
Well, I think your NFT is probably underpriced a little bit. When I bought in, I think I picked up about 100 of them, somewhere around point one. I like that you have a good media brand. I tend to think that you and Nick are genuine. I tend to think that you two care. I tend to think that you two seem to be ethical and honest. Um, and that's what attracted me to the project. I like you venture backing. I mean, I think that there's a certain amount of parental guidance that coincides with that, where you're not likely to kind of abscond with the money. And I mean, I see that you've got a pretty palatial background there, but you're not buying a Manhattan penthouse. You're kind of in the weeds. You're putting in your time and effort, and so I liked that. I like the audience. I think that you've got a lot of really smart people in the nifty kind of like portal or whatever you want to call it. I think the investment thesis behind most people is different from me. I tend to think that there are a lot of people out there a lot smarter than I am. And so I can learn a lot. I don't think I'll ever really be a short term momentum trader, but there's solid investment principles that you can learn from people who think very differently than you. And I tend to believe in it long run. Like, I also talk with the two of you a decent amount. I tend to be an operator. I've built successful businesses. I think that I like projects where I can have some levels of insight that I can bounce back and forth with the founders, because I tend to believe that I can add value to projects as well. But in order for me to add value to a project, I have to take a big enough position for it to be worth my time.
Do you feel like media brands in the NFT space are being undervalued?
Yeah. Well, yes and no. I mean, look, Rug Radio, what's their market cap at, right? Like they've
Probably pretty
got
high.
they've got a pretty high floor and they've got a pretty large supply. I think the Nifty is undervalued. Um, so you've got basically, what is it, 7,000 Ethereum. So you're looking at something in the neighborhood of this project being worth what, 20 million? Is that correct math? If you multiply 20,000 times 3.7, you're looking at 7.4 Ethereum times 20 times 10,000. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's like 18.5 million.
that to me feels kind of right priced as a valuation of that. Um, when I look at that project, they control a lot of influence, and it seems logical. Yours feels a little undervalued given the audience size, but I think that short run, I don't really fucking care what prices are short run. And that's the biggest difference between me and most traders out there is the short run pricing is all about hype. It like I don't even think CEOs of publicly traded companies should worry about stock price quarter to quarter. In the NFT market, people are sweating price minute to minute. Like legitimately, people are like concerned minute to minute. I watch these people and they're like, "Oh fuck! Like I only made like 100%. I've been here 3 weeks. What the fuck?" Holy shit, go buy a stock and try to double it in 2 years.
Yeah.
So people are really hype based, right? Like all of the market pricing that we speak about is only hype sentiment. None of it is based on fundamentals or almost none. So when you start to look at that, day to day price movements don't necessarily reflect the quality of the team. They don't necessarily reflect the quality of the project. They really reflect the quality of the promotion in the short run. So I tend to think that's why I like investing longer term is I'm not betting on what the market is going to do in the next 36 hours. I'm betting on what the founders are going to do in the next 36 months.
Well put, Josh. Well put. Anything else you want to talk about?
Well, World of Women is gearing up to put out their Galaxy of Women. If you pull up their Discord or you look through, they've got a Medium article that gives some details to that. I think those are really interesting. I constantly say it, but I think if I was going to say the single most undervalued project in the entire market right now, I almost have to say Budweiser Heritage Cans. I think they may be singularly drastically undervalued. And I've spoken with their team. They're really high level people that are operating it within Budweiser. They have an enormous amount of resources. They have been implementing real life utility to go with their product, and it's like zero point 0.4 Ethereum right now.
Yeah, I mean, this this project is absolutely one of the best. I think the price point is higher than a lot of our audience members can afford. We got some breaking news. I think someone just told me that Bored Ape Yacht Club creator Yuga Labs bought CryptoPunks and Meebits. What do you think of that, Josh?
I think I heard about that a few hours ago.
Well, they were talking about Meebits. They weren't talking
No,
about.
no, no, no. I was just talking with people that said that that was going down today.
Okay. What do you think of that?
Brilliant. Brilliant. Really sharp play. Um, really, really solid. Where what could be a better play than if you're jockeying between first and second place as an NFT project with another PFP
Just buy it.
where to buy it? Because the reality is, and I've been saying this for a while, what the fuck are you going to do with like several $100 million of funding for Bored Ape Yacht Club? I mean, there are only so many things you can do with a large amount of capital. And that's like a big brain move. I mean, it's fucking genius.
Larva Labs didn't want to do anything. I think people, like that was kind of the vibe I was getting. So it's a no-brainer for them too. What do you think happens with Bored Apes now? Or excuse me, with like CryptoPunks?
Well, you've got the KYC shit coming down the pipe. Um, I think you're going to see an increase in the value of the highest end Bored Apes, where you might see some of these gold or trippy apes start to get into the stratospheric levels of like the $24 million alien. I think there it removes the question of who the top player in the space is. Meebits have come off a little bit. I think it depends on what they're going to do with the IP. You're going to see you very different investor personalities for Bored Apes versus the CryptoPunks. I always kind of describe it as like Bored Apes to me feel very Brooklyn. CryptoPunks feel very Manhattan for people familiar with New York. And like the reality is, there are parts of Williamsburg that are far more expensive than parts of Manhattan. Like you can get a waterfront apartment in Williamsburg that's going to be more expensive than Turtle
A
Creek or
spot in
something.
FiDi.
Right, exactly. So I think that's a good parallel, but you've got a lot more OG crypto folks in the CryptoPunks, and you've got a lot more kind of newer, very, very successful investors in the Bored Apes. And, I think both camps have really bright people. Both camps have really intelligent, thoughtful investors. I think it's a very smart move. I think it's probably people will look back on it and, there's the only caveat would be is, will there ever be a Sherman Act clause that comes against it? Anti-monopoly clauses, right? So there's a reason why there's typically duopolies in most major markets, right? If you want a phone, you're going to get an Apple or you're going to get a Google phone, right? Or Android. When you look at most markets, you want as a consumer a duopoly or competition or an alternative option. The only thing I'll say on the flip side of it is there's a chance that they become a little less hungry, which I hope doesn't happen. But when you don't have a competitor at the top level and you want a blue chip project, you got to go with Yugo Labs, right? Like if you want to drop $5 million on an NFT that's a PFP, you're buying a Yugo Labs project now.
Straight up. Do you think Meebits? We're watching live sales of Meebits. They're going. They're pushing 4.5 floor at this point. Do you have any Meebits?
No, I want to get a Meebit. I do want to get a Meebit, but I haven't.
And now would be the time to do it.
I gotta agree. I'd probably hop off here and buy a Meebit.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, this is the news, right? I think we talked about here's the sales, 4.5. Buy the rumor, sell the news. You're buying the news, but you're one of the first people buying the news if you buy it right now.
Yeah, it makes me want to hop off this call.
Well, everyone, thank you for watching. No, I mean, we were wrapping.
No.
We were wrapping.
No, being realistic, I think Meebits are kind of a good bet right now. If the Yugo Labs people are going to do stuff with the IP, I think that they're really cool. They're 3-dimensional. They work really well in the metaverse. I think it's something different. So I do want to buy one of these. If we get off here and they're still below 5, I'll buy them. And if they're above 5, I won't buy them. I think it's a really easy way to think about things.
For sure. Well, Josh, as usual, thanks for coming on, man. Really appreciate it. Everyone, make sure you follow Josh on Twitter at Josh Bobrowski. He comes on our Twitter Spaces show that we have Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 10:30. Josh, we always appreciate your coming on the show.
Thank you. Pio, awesome to have me on the show, or for you to have me on the show. Very generous of you to take your time to do it. I want to say thank you to everyone in the audience. And I just kind of reiterate, like, I don't have all the answers. I like to make it pretty clear that I do make a lot of wrong bets. And so For anyone that's thinking about following my suggestions, please, please, please do your own research. The last thing I want is to make a bad judgment call and have it cause anyone else financial harm. So nothing financial advice. Please do your own research.
Do your own research. You